the 1st of July 2022, we are very happy to see the yogis practicing in Hawaii Pandita Rama Meditation Center in this July retreat. Today we will tell you what is the objects of Vipassana meditation. When you practice Vipassana meditation, what objects do you take? Normally we say in Vipassana meditation, everything becomes the object. Everything that is prominent, everything that is evident at the present moment is the objects of Vipassana meditation. But that needs some qualification that everything must be something that belongs to the ultimate reality. There are two kinds of reality taught in Buddhism: the apparent reality and the ultimate reality. The apparent reality is called concept, piñati. When we say it is a man, it is a woman, we say it is true. That is man, that is woman. That truth is just according to the convention, but in the ultimate analysis, there is no such thing as a man, there is no such thing as a woman. But just the combination of the 5 aggregates, or just say Nama and Rupa, mind and matter. So mind and matter are the ultimate realities. But when mind and matter are combined as a being, then we call it a being or a man or a woman. A man or woman or a being is a name we give to these combinations of mind and matter. So a man or woman or a being actually exists only in the imaginations of people. They have no individual essence. They have no existence of their own. The names we give to people or things, and also people or things that are represented by these names, are called apparent reality or concept. From this apparent reality, we can take out the ultimate reality. So from the man, we get mind and matter, nama and rupa. Mind and matter are the ultimate realities because they really exist and they can be experienced and they can be seen by oneself through the practice of Vipassana meditation. So concepts are those that have no real existence of their own, but they exist in people's minds, and we use a lot of concepts in our daily lives. But when we practice Vipassana meditation, we do not take concepts as object, because the purpose of Vipassana meditation or the functions of Vipassana meditation is to see that things are impermanent, things are suffering and no soul. But concept has no such thing as impermanent, suffering and non-self, because we do not know when concepts comes into being and when they disappear. They do not have these three characteristics: impermanence, suffering and no soul. And these three characteristics are important to see, because only when you see these three characteristics, you want to get away from suffering. So it is important that you see the three characteristics. And these three characteristics are found only in the ultimate realities and not in concept. So how many ultimate realities taught in Buddhism? There are four: Citta, consciousness; Cetasika, mental factors; Rupa, Metta, and Nibbana. Four ultimate realities. Among these four, a great part of consciousness and a great part of mental factors and metta or material properties are the objects of Vipassana meditation. Also, Vipassana meditation takes only what belongs to mundane sphere, not those that belongs to supramundane sphere. There are types of consciousness that are called supramundane, that arise at the moment of enlightenment, and also the mental factors accompanying them. These are not taken as objects simply because they are not yet attained by those who practice Vipassana meditation. When you practice Vipassana meditation, what you watch your mind, you watch your emotions, and you watch your consciousness, you watch mental states and so on. Only that you experience, only those that arise in your mind, you can take as objects. So the objects of Vipassana meditation is first the ultimate reality. Among the ultimate realities, those that belong to mundane sphere, not supramundane sphere. A person who has gained lower stages of enlightenment may practice Vipassana meditation, and he could take supramundane consciousness, his supramundane consciousness, as objects of Vipassana meditation. But although yogi may dwell on the supramundane consciousness, there is no benefits of getting rid of kilesa, mental defilements, regarding that consciousness. Because the supramundane consciousness is not the objects of mental defilements. There are two kinds of Vipassana. Vichaka and Numana, direct Vipassana and inferential Vipassana. First, you get the direct Vipassana. That means you put your mind on the objects and you come to see these objects as impermanence, suffering, and also anicca, dukkha, and anatta. After you have seen the real objects, you have observed as impermanence and so on, you can make an inference that just as these objects I'm observing is impermanent, suffering, and non-self, so the other objects be. In that way, you practice inferential vipassana on the other phenomena which you do not actually experience. But inferential vipassana must come only after direct vipassana. First, you have seen that a certain object is impermanent. Only after that, you can infer that just as this is impermanent, so are the other objects. In direct vipassana, you take the objects what you can experience. You take the objects what you have experienced. If you have not experienced jhana, then you cannot take jhana as objects of your vipassana. So you can take non-jhana consciousness and mental factors along with these types of consciousness as the objects of meditation. Among non-jhana consciousness, those that arise only in the minds of arahants cannot be taken as object. Because those who are not arahants cannot have experienced those types of consciousness. So these types of consciousness cannot be taken as objects. Actually, there are just a few types of consciousness and mental factors and all material properties that can be the objects of vipassana meditation. Among those that are non-jhana consciousness or among those that are material properties, only those objects that are evident to the yogi are to be taken as object. Vipassana begins with what is evident to the yogi, what he can observe easily. At the beginning of Vipassana, you don't try to understand or you don't try to see things that are subtle, that cannot be easily seen. So you begin with what is evident to you, what is easy to comprehend. That is one important thing. Because if you try to see those, they are not evident. Because they are not evident, you don't see them clearly. If you don't see them clearly, you don't see their characteristics, you don't see them as impermanent, suffering, and non-self. So Vipassana begins with what is evident, what is prominent, what is easy to see. And also there are two kinds of object, internal object and external object. Internal means that arise in your mind and in your body that you really experience. External means those that arise in other people and also those that are in outside things like trees, mountains, lakes, and so on. Although both internal and external objects are the objects of Vipassana meditation, you must concentrate on the internal objects, ichata. Because only the internal objects are evident to you. For example, the mind of other person, you don't know the mind of other person, you don't see the minds of another person, but you may infer, oh, I know that person is angry, or I know that person is happy. But are you sure he's really angry or he is really happy? You don't really see for yourself his state of mind. But what is happening in you and your mind, you really know whether you are really angry or you are really happy or any other. So it is important that yogi should lay emphasis on observing the objects that are internal, that means his own states of mind, his own types of consciousness, and his own material properties, sensation in the body and others. After a yogi has observed the internal objects and comes to know them as impermanent, suffering, and non-self, then he may do the inferential vipassana on the external objects such as mind. Mind consciousness is impermanent, so the consciousness of other people and so on is impermanence, etc. Sometimes such understanding just comes by itself and you don't have to intentionally think about it. Although both internal and external objects are the objects of Vipassana meditation, yogi should lay emphasis on observing the internal objects as much as they can. Instead of looking for or searching for outside objects, yogi should concentrate the objects that are in their mind and in their body. Looking for some outside objects is actually a distraction. By looking for some outside objects, your concentration and understanding cannot develop. Next, the objects of Vipassana is the present object. Here also in inferential Vipassana, yogi can take the past objects and the future objects as the objects of Vipassana meditation. But here also, first there must be direct understanding, direct observation, direct Vipassana on the object that is evident to him. That which is evident to him is actually that which is present at the moment. So a yogi takes the objects at the present moment as the objects of meditation and tries to be mindful of it or make mental notes of it and try to see its characteristics, try to see that it is impermanent, suffering and no soul. After yogi has seen the present objects, you clearly see the present objects as impermanent, suffering and non-self, and you may do inference or inferential Vipassana. Just as this present object is impermanent, suffering and non-self, so the the objects in the past were impermanent, suffering and non-self. So the objects in the future will be impermanent, suffering and no soul. That kind of contemplation or comprehension comes to a yogi actually almost by itself. After seeing the present objects as impermanent, suffering and no soul, a yogi just comes to see that just as this is impermanent, suffering and no soul, so are the others. What is important for a Vipassana yogi is the objects of present moment. Pichopana. That is because only the objects at the present moment can be observed and can be seen clearly. And objects that is past now cannot be observed. However much you may recall it to your mind, you do not see it clearly. You cannot see its characteristics, suffering and no self. And the objects that are to come, since they are not yet here, you cannot look at them, you cannot see them, you cannot observe them. So you cannot understand their true nature. Only the objects at the present moment lends itself to observation, investigations, or comprehending. So the objects of present is the most important. And that objects at the present moment can be any of ultimate realities. Your thoughts, your emotions, your sensations in the body, and the rising and falling of the abdomen, of breathing in and out, and there are many things. And Buddha said, Atitananagameya na patikinke nagatam. Yaditan Vihinanta apatinsa anagatam. Pichopa ninja yandaman tata tata vipassati asahira asangopan Dawida Anubyuheye. That means do not let the past come back to you, or do not go after the past, because past is already past. Do not long for the future, because the future has not yet come. But a yogi who is able to be mindful of the objects at the present moment, or the present moment as it arises, should develop concentration and wisdom that cannot be dragged away by wrong views or by attachment, tanha and ditthi. That cannot be destroyed by wrong view and attachment. Buddha instructed his disciple to be mindful of the object at the present moment, not to go back to the past or not to long for the future. Because they are not real actually. Yogi has already passed. Yogi has already passed, so not here, and the other not yet here. So they are not here. However much you try to watch them, you will not see them clearly. And if you don't see them clearly, you cannot see their characteristics, but the present object is different. Since it is here, as it were in front of your eyes, you can watch it and you can examine it and you can see it clearly. When you see it clearly, you know that it arises and it disappears. It is impermanent and it is constantly oppressed by arising and disappearing, because one arises and disappears, and then another arises and then disappears, and so on. It is like being bombarded by arising and disappearing. That sense of being constantly oppressed by arising and disappearing is what we call dukkha, suffering. And also we know that we cannot do anything about it. We just have to accept it. We cannot make the impermanence permanent. Its nature is impermanent. You cannot make permanent. We cannot make suffering happiness. The nature is arising and disappearing, so it is suffering. So we cannot make it happiness. We cannot make non-self. Self, because it is uncontrollable, it is anatta. We cannot make atta, self. So we have no control over it, and that having no control over it is what we meant by no soul. So these three characteristics are important, because without seeing these three characteristics, we cannot make progress, or we cannot get to the point where we are dispassionate towards all mental and physical phenomena, dispassionate towards suffering. So it is important that we pay attention to the objects at the present moment and not to be distracted to the past or to the future. If you think of the future and think of what will happen in the future or whatever, you are distracted. When you are distracted, you cannot make notes of the present objects clearly. If you do not see the present clearly, the concentration and understanding cannot develop. That is why sometimes people spend a lot of time, maybe days or weeks, and they could not make progress in their practice. So it is important that the objects you take must belong to the ultimate reality, and the objects you take must be the one which is easy to see, which is evident. So it must be the objects which is in the present moment. Yogi should understand the objects of Vipassana meditation. But if you are practicing with a teacher, you just need to follow his instruction. If you follow his instruction properly, you don't have to worry about what object it is or what you are doing and what objects you are taking. But if you are on your own, you should understand that Vipassana does not take concepts as object. It takes ultimate reality only as object, and the ultimate reality means your mind and your thoughts, your emotions and sensations in your body, movements of the body, and so on. They are all called ultimate reality. Among the ultimate realities, we concentrate on what is mundane. And among the mundane, the objects you take are mostly non-jhana consciousness and concomitant mental factors and all material properties. These can be both external and internal, and you should concentrate more internal objects and then the external objects. Actually, they are to be taken as objects only when you force into your mind, like when you hear a noise. And also you should concentrate on the objects at the present moment and not on those that are past or that are yet to come. You have to concentrate on Pichapana, not Adita and not Anagata. When you practice Vipassana meditation, Yogi, keep this in your mind and try to be mindful of the object at the present moment. Sometimes present moment is the breathing, or sometimes movements of the abdomen, sometimes your thoughts going here and there, sometimes emotions, sometimes sensation in the body. Whatever is evident at the present moment, it is the objects of Vipassana meditation. If you can just pay attention to the objects at the present moment and not go back to the past, not long for the future or not think about the future, you will develop concentration quickly. When your concentration gets developed, you will become to see the true nature of these objects, that they are impermanent, they are suffering, and they are no soul. So this is the purpose of Vipassana or the functions of Vipassana, because the meaning of the word itself is seeing in various ways. Seeing in various ways means seeing mental and physical phenomena as impermanence, suffering, and no soul. So when you practice Vipassana, it is important that you see these three characteristics. So yogi should practice diligently. Yogi should practice continuously and meticulously. We have to stop our discourse for today by practicing Vipassana meditation, by observing every phenomena occurring at the six senses, by noting rising, falling, sitting, touching, seeing, hearing, etc. continuously and meticulously. May all yogis realize the real peace. May all yogis know the nature of phenomena as they really are. May all yogis be liberated from all suffering. May all yogis realize the real peace in the very near future.